of the global ecosystem like the Trump can take a big beating on India, right? We can talk a lot about our internal competencies, our internal protocols, our internal production. But the truth is most of our production that we have in India often doesn't even meet the requirements of quality in the international standards. I run a company that is into cross-border distribution and supply chain. We're the third largest. And let me tell you something, sometimes not only is export into India or export outside of India or import into India is a nightmare, but most of our quality standards are not in place. That is purely because one, we don't have a skilled economy. We are a 1.5 billion consumer. We can harp around it, but we don't have the skilled economy. We don't have the right regulations when it comes to customs or imports that allows us very qualitative method of importing and exporting products within the region.
Yeah.
Now with this 10-year-long battle being fought, EU agreement being signed, we are the largest exporters to EU and then importers. I feel we'll become more an import hub than an export hub, to be very honest with you.
Okay,
again,
well, big news coming in.
There are huge infrastructure challenges.
Yes.
Look at it. Like
Yes.
I have a big team sitting out of Bangalore. I'm joining from Dubai. And let me tell you something. Dubai is growing, Dubai's e-commerce, and because we are largely in e-commerce, is growing at a faster rate than India. And there's a reason to it, the ease of business. The ease of business is the most paramount fundamental of any economic growth within a region. No matter how much you talk about the budget, which is more like an annual operating plan for a country, unless you have the basics, which is access to working capital, access to proper supply chain, subsidized warehousing and infrastructure management, skilled labor, and there is a minimum capacity optimization on quality and infrastructure. We can talk about budget year on year.
Okay.
Rahul, but it is
I completely agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. And I think, Suhail, plain speaking from both of you, absolutely spot on. Let me also bring in Parikshit Luthra, colleague of mine from CNBC TV 18, straight across. He's going to be interviewing Piyush Goyal today. Probably the first journalist who will get that interview, so it'll be interesting because we're looking really at very unpredictable times, Parikshit. We're looking at trade being politicized, weaponized. We're looking at pressures on the Indian economy where we didn't expect. We're looking at a political class that is completely right now going after the FM for mismanagement. You know what I'm talking about. What can she do really to transform this economy into one that is firewalled against all these changes? Sunil Agar also joins us. Yes.
You know, the theme of this budget, I'm quite sure, will be resilience. Resilience in very turbulent times. We're possibly going to see the finance minister increase capex and record capex for defense expenditure. It could be as high as 15 to 20%. We're going to see a major rejig of customs duties. Why is this important? Because you want to make exports more competitive. You're having trade deals with a number of nations, but at the same time, you want to make sure that the import of raw materials comes at the lowest possible cost to the Indian manufacturer and the exports go out at the lowest possible cost as well. We will see ease of living, ease of taxation, ease of compliance. All these messages will be very important. Somehow there will be a message to global investors that we want to create a very sustainable, durable environment for foreign portfolio investors and FDI investors as well. Now, talking about the turbulent times, we're seeing that India is embarking on a very strong diversification strategy, be it energy, be it trade as well. Donald Trump has tweeted to say India will be buying Venezuelan oil. We are getting to know from analysts that perhaps there's only one company which is buying Venezuelan oil right now. It's going to be difficult in terms of buying oil from Venezuela because it's very hard crude, it's difficult to refine, it's costly to refine as well, but Venezuela will be a part of our diversification strategy. So be it trade, be it energy, we will diversify, we will not put all our eggs in one basket, that is the United States, but at the same time, we have our eyes on the ball. I'm sure Piyush Goyal has his eyes on the ball when it comes to the United States, and they are working on trying to negotiate and conclude a trade deal with the US at the earliest.
Okay, so Parikshit, thank you very much for giving us that overview. Custom duties, ease of living, ease of compliance are his top picks. We're going to be focusing laser-like, viewers, and we're going to have Insta analysis. As the FM starts speaking, our experts will give you their take on what she's saying. Now, let's just pull out some of these numbers, because this export shock is what we're really worried about, because this is what really has been unfortunate aspect of these Trump tariffs. So there are certain sectors, the textile and apparel sector, orders have been deferred and cancelled, and you can see that on your screens. It's coming out through our studio floor, this particular graphic. Let's look at engineering goods, price uncompetitive, that's a problem. Sunil Alagh, you probably involved with the industry. Auto components, margins wiped out. This is a problem. This is a problem, and I'm going to ask both of you to tell us how this can be addressed, and is the budget the place?
See, all I'm saying is 75% is budget for the year. Is 75%. And 25% is strategy, which is the vision of Mr. Modi.
See, that's the issue.
The vision is correct, but what the person is wanting to do is to increase employment. Internally, he has to increase employment. Otherwise, he will not be elected. So there is no question of anyone, which I was on the Hindi channel downstairs. But I was saying that, look, either in infrastructure, what China did was infrastructure spending. It did not decrease at all. So consumer spending internal, that has to be done. Now manufacturing has to be increased, but the Hindi channel said, but manufacturing, only the power sector, which is the power private companies are actually generating power, and they are losing money. So where's the question of manufacturing coming in? The government might say manufacturing, wo, but it's not going to happen.
I totally agree with him. See, because while you're going to be the fourth largest economy in the world, you have, say, 7% growth rates. That is not reflecting in jobs on the ground and increments in new earners coming into it. So any government, whether it's this government or any other government, has to solve this issue. We have to. Our manufacturing is somewhere around 16% of GDP, right? It used to be much more, and we can't follow the China model as it was.
Nalin, increasing the share of manufacturing in the GDP does not assure you jobs any longer. So therefore, what you've got to do is something that I had mentioned earlier. I am repeating myself. Go after tourism, for God's sake. Go after leather exports. Go after garment exports. Bangladesh exports more than you. Why should you be able to do that? Engineering, auto components. Go for those. But so therefore, the thing is that you can't escape the fact that you've got to get the export demand going. And this government or any previous government has not been able to incentivize exports to the extent.
Let me ask some of the business.
We need a paradigmic shift on that, Rahul.
The paradigm shift is needed. So say it.
I will say this, as I said in my opening remarks, your largest generators of employment are tourism and real estate. Luckily or unluckily, they don't require that level of skilling. Having said that, what the hell has happened to the NSDC, the National Skilling Development Corporation? The problem is we have more institutions than people actually delivering through them. Now take, for example, tourism. Cost of land is so high that a hotel company or hospitality company will never invest because the return on capital will be miserable. Now look at the ease of business there. To open a bar in a hotel will take you forever. Today, the Gift City in Ahmedabad is an outstanding example of an international financial center. It took them, with Mr. Modi's intervention, years to, get a liquor license. I'm only saying two things. One is, you need jobs and jobs and jobs, and you need more skilled Indians. I hate to say this, try getting hold of a skilled plumber. And here, some of our famous industrialists used to use words like jugaad. That is what has destroyed India's competence. Because jugaad is more a shortcut than actually skilled process-driven work. We are not focusing on that, Rahul. And until we focus on that, Sunil also said, you will have a budget, but you will have vision which is not being implemented upon. And that's what you need. You need the budget to be transformational. Today you can't get skilled people. I mean, I hate to say this, but I'm proud of that. The Northeast contributes almost 70% to front of house staff in most hotels.
True.
Because of language skills. Today, the language skills are abominable. So I'm saying all these things we need to work on here. We can't just keep saying, "Bhai, budget aayega to pura duniya change ho jayegi."
Okay.
If I could-
Well, yeah, I'm just bringing you in, ma'am. I just also want to bring in the other entrepreneur, and news breaking also that the cabinet has approved the budget. This is almost an expected thing. It's part of the process. Ms. Somdata Singh, yes.
So, as an entrepreneur, there's one of the things that I want to highlight here, because we were talking about skilled people, skilled laborers, where is skilling happening? There's a national skill organization, where is the output? And especially with India having 40% of our population under the age group of 35. It's all the brain drain. You may still think that, it's not happening. There's a lot of reverse brain drain happening from outside. Most of the Indian population, and we hire people in GCC, most of the Indian population is moving to GCC. One, because of tax, there's no income tax, right? So you get to save all the money. There's a minimum wage that the government mandates all the organizations that have to pay because of the quality of the labor that you're importing from a different nation into the GCC region. So where do you find talent? Most of the talent today is so subsidized, is so migrating towards other countries that you can't find talent within the home geography. The second thing that we were all talking about is that the subsidies or the access to working capital. How do you increase manufacturing, Rahul, when you have to sit in a bank and do paperwork for months together just to validate whether your business is worth funding? And in other cases, without even having stock in inward stock ratio or a manufacturing setup, there are businesses that are getting funded. Also, the competency when it comes to Indian production, we say we are innovators. We are innovators outside of our country. We are innovating for Google and Microsoft.
Yeah.
But can I tell you something? Even in food and beverages, we are copycats. We copy what has worked in United States, try to bring it into India, try to subsidize the quality, and then try exporting the same product out. And the reason I'm able to draw these statistics to you is because we are one of the largest exporters of food and beverages outside of India for some of the largest Indian names.
Right.
They don't pass the quality test.
Well,
So
okay.
at the end of the day,
These are very important suggestions coming from stakeholders, viewers. These are not people who don't know what they're talking about and are just being negative for the sake of being negative. This is not that. This is a constructive conversation. I just want to quickly bring in Sumita Daura. You had a point to make.
Yes, we were talking about exports.
Yeah.
You see, quality of exports, testing labs for exports is something we can expect in the budget. Similarly, the customs we've already spoken about, the rationalization, the inward duty structures, we can expect some reform there. We can also expect the QCOs. The already good work has been going on, and probably more focus on withdrawing the unnecessary QCOs which are hindering the quality upgrade in the economy, more outreach to the market, and also bringing in more investments. Again, I would say the FDI is to build the scale and the connectivity to the regional markets, the regional trade agreements. We should also look towards ASEAN, and probably we could consider the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We need to look at other regional.
They're being renegotiated,
yeah.
Mr. Garg, on this whole issue of trying to get investment to come in, demand to increase.
See, the budget has a very important role to play in attracting investments. I think this goes without saying. Through the FDI route, through the FPI routes, and even otherwise.
I'm asking you, is this make or break time?
There is never a make or break time. It's a continuum which is always going on. And the policy is also, you don't make for the 100% of the economy all the time. You make the policy for what is going to sort of add value in future. That's why, to my mind, if we look at the policy framework for attracting investment, we should be looking at the policy on the products of the future. The future products are in the renewable energy transition space, the solars, cells, modules, wind, hydrogen, and those kind of things. Can we get those technologies here? Can we guys get those investment here? And one of the things which is very important there is that most of these are sort of controlled by the Chinese companies. Can we allow the Chinese investment to come in the country? That is where the policy making should lead to if you want to get more investment in the country.
Okay, I'm going to go across because the big elephant in the room, of course, is the jobs outlook. And that's really something that I'm going to look at with some numbers. Always put the data first, and I'm going to take gentlemen in our studio as well as Sumita ji. get her to give us a little bit of an overview on this. This is the problem, viewers, as you can see. Employment, while absolute numbers might have grown, many people say that these are not jobs that are quality jobs. And that's really the issue here. It's not absolute numbers, but it is quality jobs. So while that number looks about 15% up, you have to look at this. Yes, sir. Yeah.
3 crore translates to 643 million,
Yeah.
which is actually the size of our workforce.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this number is coming from. If this is all coming out of the EPFO, then the whole workforce is therefore formalized.
Well, this is another question that people have sort of put. The youth unemployment numbers are, well, at 10.2%. Some people say they're actually higher. They're in the 18 or 17% category. So, look, I mean, numbers, and I'm sorry to say this, but there is always a debate around the numbers, the quality of the numbers, the quality of the data itself. Is that a problem to begin with first, sir?
Huh?
Is the quality of the numbers suspect? First of all, I want to ask you this question because this is what is constantly talked about.
The definition of employment in this country, and along with, according to which the PLFS survey is done,
That's right.
has to be changed very quickly. 1 week's employment for the whole month qualifies you to be said that you're employed. 1 month in a year qualifies you to be, if you're self-employed on family labor without pay, and that is where the women participation rates have gone up, you are employed. So I think all of those numbers, definition.
So the definition is the problem, perhaps not the data. No one's fiddling the data, it's just that the definition needs to be changed. Would you agree?
But I'd agree with everything, but South India is where when I was in Hyderabad, and it is not our government at all, but not BJP government. But when South India accounts for so much of GDP growth comes from South India and Northeast, as somebody else has said. But where do we pay attention? We pay attention only around Delhi when the budget, and budget has no meaning anymore.
Has no meaning.
Has no meaning because every 3 months Modi is going to change.
Would you say that, Sunita, has no meaning?
I would again say this budget is a chance to turbocharge India onto a higher growth trajectory.
Is it one of the last few chances? Or will we then settle in a very comfortable middle income trap and that's it?
It's a continuous exercise.
Is this a make or break moment? Are we in that place?
We are going to have continuity in whatever reforms we brought in for Viksit Bharat and also for inclusive growth.
But Viksit Bharat needs sustained 8%. If you have to hit those targets, you want to be the number 1 economy, you want to be the world leader, 8%, we're not hitting 8%. Come on, let's be honest.
We need to grow faster, and there are certain sectors.
Okay, not hitting 8%, Mr. Garg, why?
See,
I'll bring in Suhail Seth. He's going to cut through all of this and going to give you absolutely the hard one.
So let us first deal with this employment and the worker question. I think there are 2 aspects of it. One is the quality of data, about 65 crores or something. That includes a lot of people who are employed for a very little while, and
so
also those who are not employed. But that's fine. 65 crore is the number which is actually put out as counted as workers. But the side which we generally miss is that what is the wages they are earning. Because that is where the demand comes, where the income of the workers. So workers work for wages, and that wage increase you would find is not taking place at all, and that is what the worry is. The chief economic advisor in last year's economic survey put out a number, again taking from the EPFO survey, that the real wages for the whole lot of self-employed and the casual workers is actually declining in nominal terms. So that is the cause of concern. Now about 8% kind of thing, 8% growth will come. You see, we know in composition of our economy.
But can this budget give you, can spur the growth engine, yes or no? Because someone here said budgets don't matter.
Not much. It can. It is important, but it can make very important intervention. But it is not the decider of the growth.
Not the decider.
Rahul, there's an old aphorism that India only reforms when there's a real big crisis. We saw that in 1991. In the last year, we've dealt with a lot of crises induced by Trump after Sindoor. So you've seen a slew of reforms, a slew of movements, GST reform, reform in pension, A regulatory push has been happened with SEBI and RBI to clear a lot of things. You've seen a reform in our legislation on nuclear energy as well as on coastal, and that is an important one, because if you look at logistics, the cost of logistics in India is higher than in most other countries. You know, the point I want to make is this reform momentum has to continue, and you know, we get happy we've removed 12 QCO orders, but problem is that those were put by ourselves only a couple of years ago. There's still 800 more to be removed.
Okay,
The
so
measure is not very
yes.
compared 2 years ago. Measure is where we are compared to Dubai or Vietnam or Indonesia.
There are still 760 odd QCOs in place.
Right.
Which are, but two things that the budget can do, which will take it to 8%, reduce the cost of capital for the private sector, especially for the medium and small enterprises, by reducing the burden of your fiscal deficit.
Yeah.
And two, ease of doing business. Really go
Ease
after
of doing business. Those
really
are
go after it. Go after it in a manner that
four words, Suhail, say it, 4 words.
Which
What do you want? What do you exactly, which you started with, what do you want? What do you want to hear the FM say today? Look, we can listen to another 1 hour long speech, but inside scoop of what the Prime Minister told the Cabinet. Let's hope that he has told the Cabinet that this particular budget is going to send us down a path of massive growth, because we are reforming. We're going to make sure that the ease of doing business in our country is going to improve by leaps and bounds. He says, keep in mind the 2047 goal. Is this budget going to meet those expectations? Is this budget going to reload reforms in a manner that haven't been done before? Is it going to be instrumental in getting rid of those bottlenecks that we keep talking about year after year, but only act upon when there's crisis? And why should that be the case, viewers? Why should that be the case? Why should we only wake up when we get a tight slap? Why can't we move quicker, faster, stronger, swifter, and do what is needed without crisis? Yes.
Mainly because.
Yeah. Okay. I asked him. Yes.
The union budget. Yeah. The union budget is excitable for 3 classes.
You said.
One is for television channels, because they have a full day. TRPs go up, you get sponsorships, blah blah blah. Okay. Number 2, for chambers of commerce, because people who you had forgotten or you had assumed were dead will be brought back from the woodwork to hail the budget as transformational and visionary. Number 3, you will hear secretaries to the government of India waxing eloquent about jargon that you and I can never understand in our lifetime. So I'm not bothered about the union budget. It is just a statement of accounts where, depending on who the finance minister is, you will also get a minuscule crash course in civilizational history by quoting some poet who the whole world has forgotten. So forget the union budget. What is important are the issues that the entire panel has raised. My belief is that the finance minister and the prime minister have good intent. We need execution. The situation with India is operation successful, patient dead. So being happy with a budget is like getting married to a corpse. Only you will feel good because the corpse doesn't even know. So my point is, make the budget either a policy document or a statement of accounts. You can't have partial pregnancy. Sunil Alagh mentioned 75-25. No. The vision document has to be distinct. And as Rajiv mentioned in his earlier remarks, the states must also contribute. Today, trust me, everyone is on the subsidy bandwagon. You saw what these Johnnies did in Maharashtra, 10,000 rupees just before the election.
Yeah.
Was it Maharashtra?
Yes.
It was Maharashtra.
Yes.
Now every state is doing it, so we don't even know which state did it. Now, if this is what you're doing, I mean, what the hell is...
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, yes, you have a point there, but as someone was saying on the panel, I think it was Rajiv Kumar, these are politically loaded issues. Cannot mess about.
The budget is not being presented by Karan Johar.
Okay. So you're saying it's a okay. So you're saying it's a political statement at the end of the day. It's got nothing to do with anything. But this is the point, Rajiv Kumar. Are you sort of giving the government too long a rope? I think the time has come to bite the bullet. I mean, you can't say, and that's what we've heard from Piyush Goyal many times, telling industry, "Come on, walk with me," but then you don't incentivize industry. You don't have. Yes, go ahead.
Rahul, sorry, just the opposite of giving the government a long rope. I've been saying the government has to bite the bullet and get the ease of doing business.
No, that is fine. But what about subsidies, sir? Huge expense. It blows our fiscal.
You have to focus on a few sectors and incentivize them so that they can, they can grow at
that is
12,
true.
15%.
Look, those are narrow prescriptions, but there are larger issues, and we talk about it all the time.
Larger issues like
inflating subsidy bill, which puts so much pressure on the fiscal deficit. It's getting worse. The Prime Minister came up with Revdi, said that, look, we shouldn't get into this competitive race, but then the BJP itself put out some Revdi. So how does this work?
It doesn't work.
So when are we going to bite that bullet? And why can't the budget take a position and say, look, from now on, we're increasing taxes here on these people who are out of the net and so on and so forth? Why can't that happen? Okay, it's all coming together. In just a minute, Parliament is going to be convening and the Finance Minister will be speaking. So we are in the countdown minute now. Anand, we are in the countdown minute. He joins me. Anand, you've been speaking to a lot of our guests and our panel. What's really the focus? What are you hearing now? We're getting all sorts of breaking news. Can we put some money to these words and say that this is going to be a budget that is going to take the hard decisions?
Well, the Bahikhata has become electronic and I'm walking with my laptop around, but and I'll keep it here. But the fact is, the question that you asked, is the government going to facilitate, let me say, is the government going to facilitate job creation? Is the government going to give hard policy and give...
I rise to lay on the table a copy each of the following papers, Hindi and English versions, under Article 281 of the Constitution, Report for 2026 to 2031, Volume 1, Main Report of the 16th Finance Commission. 2. Report for 2026-2031, Volume 2, Annexures of the 16th Finance Commission. Number 3. Explanatory memorandum as to the action taken on the recommendations contained in the above report.
Item number 2, माननीय वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी.
Honorable Speaker, sir, on the sacred occasion of Magh Purnima and the birth anniversary of Guru Ravidas, I present the budget for the year 2026-2027. Since we assumed office 12 years ago, India's economic trajectory has been marked by stability, fiscal discipline, sustained growth, and moderate inflation. This is the result of conscious choices we have made, even in times heightened uncertainty and disruption. Our government, led by Honorable Prime Minister Modi, has decisively and consistently chosen action over ambivalence, reform over rhetoric, and people over populism. We have pursued far-reaching structural reforms, fiscal prudence and monetary stability, whilst maintaining a strong thrust on public investment. Keeping Atmanirbharta as a lodestar, we have built domestic manufacturing capacity, energy security, and reduced critical import dependencies. Simultaneously, we have ensured that citizens benefit from every action of the government, undertaking reforms to support employment generation, agricultural productivity, household purchasing power, and universal services to people. These measures have delivered a high growth rate of around 7% and helped us make substantial strides in poverty reduction and improvement in the lives of our people. Today, we face an external environment in which trade and multilateralism are imperiled and access to resources and supply chains are disrupted. New technologies are transforming production systems, while sharply increasing demands on water, energy, and critical minerals. India will continue to take confident steps towards Vikasit Bharat, balancing ambition with inclusion. As a growing economy with expanding trade and capital needs, India must also remain deeply integrated with global markets, exporting more and attracting stable long-term investment. As I begin part A, I want to express my gratitude to the people for standing firmly with us as we forge our way together towards becoming one of the largest economies of the world. Our aim is to transform aspiration into achievement and potential into performance as we ensure that the dividends of growth reach every farmer, the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes, the nomads, the youth, the poor, and the women. In Vikasit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue 2026, several innovative ideas were shared with our Prime Minister, which have inspired many of the proposals, making this a unique Yuva Shakti-driven budget. Our government's sankalp is to focus on our poor, underprivileged, and the disadvantaged. To deliver on this sankalp, and given that this is the first budget prepared in Kartavya Bhavan, we are inspired by three Kartavya. Our first Kartavya is to accelerate and sustain economic growth by enhancing productivity and competitiveness and building resilience to volatile global dynamics. Our second Kartavya is to fulfill aspirations of our people and build their capacity, making them strong partners in India's path to prosperity. Our third Kartavya, aligned with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, is to ensure that every family, community, region, and sector has access to resources, amenities, and opportunities for meaningful participation. This threefold approach requires a supportive ecosystem. The first requirement is to sustain the momentum of structural reforms, continuous, adaptive, and forward-looking. Second, a robust and resilient financial sector is central to mobilizing savings, allocating capital efficiently, and managing risks. Third, cutting-edge technologies, including AI applications, can serve us as force multipliers for better governance. Reform Express. Our government has undertaken comprehensive reforms towards creating employment, boosting productivity, and accelerating growth. After the Prime Minister's announcement on Independence Day in 2025, over 350 reforms have been rolled out. This includes GST simplification, notification of labor codes, and rationalization of mandatory quality control orders. High-level committees have been formed, and in parallel, the central government is working with the state governments on deregulation and reducing compliance requirements. The Reform Express is well on its way and will maintain its momentum to help us fulfill our Kartavya. I now move to specific proposals. Under our first Kartavya, to accelerate and sustain economic growth, I propose interventions in 6 areas. 1. Scaling up manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. 2. Rejuvenating legacy industrial sectors. 3. Creating champion MSMEs. 4. delivering a powerful push for infrastructure. 5, ensuring long-term security and stability. And 6, developing city economic regions. Scaling up of manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. Biopharma Shakti, meaning biopharma strategy for health advancement through knowledge, technology and innovation. India's disease burden is observed to be shifting towards non-communicable diseases like diabetes, cancer and autoimmune disorders. Biologic medicines are key to longevity and quality of life at affordable costs. To develop India as a global biopharma manufacturing hub, I propose the Biopharma Shakti with an outlay of 10,000 crores over the next 5 years. This will build the ecosystem for domestic production of biologics and biosimilars. The strategy will include a biopharma-focused network with 3 new national institutes of pharmaceutical education and research, popularly known as NIPERs, and upgrading 7 existing ones. It will also create a network of 1,000 accredited India clinical trials sites. We propose to strengthen the Central Drug Standard Control Organization to meet global standards and approve timeframes through and approval timeframes through a dedicated scientific review cadre and specialists. India's Semiconductor Mission 1.0 expanded India's semiconductor sector capabilities. Building on this, we will launch ISM 2.0 to produce equipment and materials, design full-stack Indian IP, and fortify supply chains. We will also focus on industry-led research and training centers to develop technology and skilled workforce. The Electronics Components Manufacturing Scheme, launched in April 2025 with an outlay of 22,919 crores, already has investment commitments at double the targets. We propose to increase the outlay to 40,000 crores to capitalize on this momentum. A scheme for rare earth permanent magnets was launched in 2025 November. We now propose to support the mineral-rich states of Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu to establish dedicated rare earth corridors to promote mining, processing, research and manufacturing. To enhance domestic chemical production and reduce import dependency, we will launch a scheme to support states in establishing 3 dedicated chemical parks through challenge route on a cluster-based plug-and-play model. Strong capital goods. Strong capital goods capability is a determinant of productivity and quality across different sectors. Towards building this capacity, I propose the following. High-tech tool rooms will be established by central public sector enterprises at 2 locations as digitally enabled automated service bureaus that locally design, test and manufacture high-precision components at scale and at lower cost. 2. A scheme for enhancement of construction and infrastructure equipments will be introduced to strengthen domestic manufacturing of high value and technologically advanced CIE. This can range from lifts in a multi-storied apartment or firefighting equipment in multiplexes, large or small, and to tunnel boring equipments for building metros and high altitude roads. I also propose a scheme for container manufacturing to create a globally competitive container manufacturing ecosystem with a budgetary allocation of 10,000 crores over a 5-year period. For the labor-intensive textile sector, I propose an integrated program with 5 subparts. 1. The National Fiber Scheme for self-reliance in natural fibers, such as silk, wool and jute, man-made fibers and new-age fibers. Textile expansion and employment scheme to modernize traditional clusters with capital support for machinery, technology upgradation and common testing and certification centers. 3. The National Handloom and Handicraft Program to integrate and strengthen existing schemes and ensure targeted support for weavers and artisans. Tex Eco initiative to promote globally competitive and sustainable textiles and apparels. Samarth 2.0 to modernize the upgrade the textile skilling ecosystem through collaboration with industry and academic institutions. Further, I propose to set up mega textile parks in challenge mode. They can also focus on bringing value addition to technical textiles. I propose to launch the Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative to strengthen khadi, handloom and handicrafts. This will help in global market linkage and branding. It will streamline and support training, skilling, quality of process and production. This will benefit our weavers, village industries, one district, one product ODOP initiative and also our rural youth. India has the potential to emerge as a global hub for high quality, affordable sports goods. I propose a dedicated initiative for sports goods that will promote manufacturing, research and innovation in equipment design as well as material sciences. Rejuvenation of legacy industrial clusters. I propose to introduce a scheme to revive 200 legacy industrial clusters to improve their cost competitiveness and efficiency through infrastructure and technology upgradation. Creating champion SMEs and supporting micro enterprises. Recognizing MSMEs as a vital engine of growth, I propose a 3-pronged approach to help them grow as champions. Equity support. I propose to introduce a dedicated 10,000 crores SME growth fund to create future champions, incentivizing enterprises based on select criteria. I also propose to top up the Self-Reliant India Fund set up in 2021 with 2,000 crores to continue support to micro enterprises and maintain their access to risk capital. Liquidity support. With TREADS, more than 7 lakh crore has been made available to MSMEs. To leverage its full potential, I propose 4 measures. 1. Mandate TREADS as the transaction settlement platform for all purchases from MSMEs by CPSEs, serving as a benchmark for other corporates. 2. Introduce a credit guarantee support mechanism through CGT MSE for invoice discounting on TREADS platform. 3. Link GEM with TREADS for sharing information with financiers about government purchases from MSMEs, encouraging cheaper and quicker financing. 4. Introduce TREADS receivables as asset-backed securities helping develop a secondary market, enhancing liquidity and settlement of transactions. Professional support. Government will facilitate professional institutions such as the ICAI, ICSI, ICMAI to design short-term modular courses and practical tools to develop a cadre of corporate mitras, especially in Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns. These accredited para-professionals will help MSMEs meet compliance requirements at affordable costs. Infrastructure. During this past decade, our government has undertaken several initiatives for large-scale enhancement of public infrastructure, including through new financing instruments such as Infrastructure Investment Trust (InvITs) and Real Estate Investment Trust (REITs), and institutions like NIIF and NABFID. We shall continue to focus on developing infrastructure in cities with over 5 lakh population, that is Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, which have expanded to become growth centers. Public capital expenditure has increased manifold from 2 lakh crore in 2014-15 to an allocation of 11.2 lakh crore in BE 25-26. In this coming year, that is financial year 2026-27, I propose to increase it to 12.2 lakh crores to continue the momentum. To strengthen the confidence of private developers regarding risks during infrastructure development and construction phase, I propose to set up an infrastructure risk guarantee fund to provide prudentially calibrated partial credit guarantee to lenders. Over the years, rights have emerged as a successful instrument for asset monetization. I propose to accelerate recycling of significant real estate assets of the CPSEs through the setting up of dedicated rights. To promote environmentally sustainable movement of cargo, I propose to 1. Establish new dedicated freight corridors connecting Dankuni in the east to Surat in the west. Operationalize 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years. Starting with National Waterways 5 in Orissa to connect mineral-rich areas of Talcher and Angul and industrial centers like Kalinga Nagar to the ports of Paradeep and Dhamra. Training institutes will be set up as regional centers of excellence for development of required manpower for these waterways. This will benefit youth in the entire stretch of the waterways to train and acquire skills. Further, a ship repair ecosystem catering to inland waterways will also be set up at Varanasi and Patna. And C, launch a coastal cargo promotion scheme for incentivizing a modal shift from rail to road to increase the share of inland waterways and coastal shipping from 6% to 12% by 2047. To enhance last mile and remote connectivity and promote tourism, I propose to give incentives to indigenize manufacturing of seaplanes. A seaplane VGF scheme will be also introduced to provide support for operations. Carbon capture, utilization and storage. Aligning with the roadmap launched in December 2025, the carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies at scale will achieve higher readiness and in end-use application across 5 industrial sectors, including power, steel, cement, refineries, and chemicals. An outlay of 20,000 crore is proposed over the next 5 years for this purpose. City economic regions. Cities are India's engines of growth, innovation, and opportunities. We shall now focus on Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, and even temple towns, which need modern infrastructure and basic amenities. This budget aims to further amplify the potential of cities to deliver the economic power of agglomerations by mapping city economic regions based on their specific growth drivers. An allocation of 5,000 crore per CER over 5 years is proposed for implementing their plans through a challenge mode with a reform cum result based financing mechanism. In order to promote environmentally sustainable passenger systems, we will develop 7 high-speed rail corridors between cities as growth connectors, namely Mumbai to Pune, Pune to Hyderabad, Hyderabad to Bengaluru, Hyderabad to Chennai, Chennai to Bengaluru, Delhi to Varanasi, Varanasi to Siliguri. Financial sector. The Indian banking sector today is characterized by strong balance sheet, historic highs in profitability, improved asset quality, and coverage exceeding 98% of villages in the country. At this juncture, we are well placed to futuristically evaluate the measures needed to continue on the path of reform-led growth of this sector. I propose setting up a high-level committee on banking for Vikasit Bharat. High-level committee on banking for Vikasit Bharat to comprehensively review the sector and align it with India's next phase of growth while safeguarding financial stability, inclusion, and consumer protection. The vision for NBFCs for Vikasit Bharat has been outlined with clear targets for credit disbursement and technology adoption in order to achieve scale and improve efficiency in the public sector NBFCs. As a first step, it is proposed to restructure the Power Finance Corporation and Rural Electrification Corporation. I propose a comprehensive review of the foreign exchange management non-debt instruments rules to create a more contemporary, user-friendly framework for foreign investments consistent with India's evolving economic priorities. Corporate bond market. I propose to introduce a market-making framework with suitable access to funds and derivatives on corporate bond indices. I also propose to introduce total return swaps on corporate bonds. Municipal bonds. To encourage the issuance of municipal bonds of higher value by larger cities, I propose an incentive of 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance. 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance of more than 1,000 crore. The current scheme under Amrit which incentivizes issuances up to 200 crores only, will also continue to support smaller and medium towns. That will also continue to support the smaller and medium towns. Ease of doing business. Individual persons resident outside India, PROI, will be permitted to invest in equity instruments of listed Indian companies through the portfolio investment scheme. It is also proposed to increase the investment limit for an individual PROI under the scheme from 5% to 10% with an overall investment limit for all individual PROIs to 24% from the current 10%. Emerging technologies including AI. 21st century is technology driven. Adoption of technology is for the benefit of all people. Farmers in the field, women in STEM, youth keen to upskill, and Divyangjan to access newer opportunities. The government has taken several steps to support new technologies through AI mission, National Quantum Mission, Anusandhan National Research Fund, and Research and Development and Innovation Fund. Our second kartavya is to fulfill aspirations and build capacities. Close to 25 crore individuals have come out of multi-dimensional poverty through a decade of our government's sustained and reform-oriented efforts. Our government has therefore decided to place a renewed emphasis on the service sector to provide a pathway to fulfilling aspirations of a youthful India with the following measures. I propose to set up a high-powered education to employment and enterprises standing committee to recommend measures that focus on services sector as a core driver of Vikasit Bharat. This will make us a global leader in services with a 10% global share by 2047. The committee will prioritize areas to optimize the potential for growth, employment, and exports. They will also assess the impact of emerging technologies, including AI, on jobs and skill requirements and propose measures thereof. To create a range of skilled career pathways, a new range of skilled career pathways for our youth, I propose interventions in the following sectors. Health. Existing institutions for allied health professionals will be upgraded and new AHP institutions established in private and government sectors. This will cover 10 selected disciplines, including optometry, radiology, anesthesia, OT technology, applied psychology and behavioral health, and add 1 lakh AHPs over the next 5 years. A strong care system covering geriatric and allied care services will be built. A variety of NSQF aligned programs will be developed to train multi-skilled caregivers, combining core care and allied skills such as wellness, yoga, and operation of medical assistive devices. In the coming year, 1.5 lakh caregivers will be trained. Hubs for medical value tourism. To promote India as a hub for medical tourism services, I propose to launch a scheme to support states in establishing 5 regional medical hubs in partnership with the private sector. These hubs will serve as integrated healthcare complexes that combine medical, educational, and research facilities. They will have Ayush centers, medical value tourism facilitation centers, and infrastructure for diagnostics, post-care, and rehabilitation. These hubs will provide diverse opportunities, job opportunities for health professionals, including doctors and AHPs. Ancient Indian yoga, already respected in several parts of the world, was given a mass global recognition when Honorable Prime Minister took it to the UN. Post-COVID, Ayurveda gained a similar global acceptance and recognition. Exporting quality Ayurveda products helps farmers who grow the herbs and youth who process the products. To meet growing global demand, a few more steps are being taken. I propose to 1. Set up 3 new All India Institutes of Ayurveda. 2. Upgrade Ayush pharmacies and drug testing labs for higher standards of certification ecosystem and make available more skilled personnel. 3. Upgrade the WHO Global Traditional Medicine Center in Jamnagar to bolster evidence-based research, training and awareness for traditional medicine. Animal husbandry. Livestock contributes to close to 16% of farm income, including of poor and marginal households. To scale up availability of veterinary professionals by more than 20,000, I propose to roll out a loan-linked capital subsidy support scheme for establishment of veterinary and para-veterinary colleges, veterinary hospitals, diagnostic laboratories, and breeding facilities in private sector. Collaboration between Indian and foreign institutions will also be facilitated. Orange economy. India's animation, visual effects, gaming and comics sector, AVGC sector, is a growing industry projected to require 2 million professionals by 2030. I propose to support the Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, Mumbai, in setting up AVGC content creator labs in 15,000 secondary schools all over the country and 500 colleges. The Indian design industry is expanding rapidly, and yet there is a shortage of Indian designers. I propose to establish, through Challenge Route, a new National Institute of Design to boost design education and development in the eastern region of India. Education. Our government will support states through Challenge Route in creating 5 university townships in the vicinity of major industrial and logistics corridors. These planned academic zones will host multiple universities, colleges and research institutions, skill centers and residential complexes. In higher education, STEM institutions, prolonged hours of study and laboratory work pose some challenges for girl students. Through VGF, Viability Gap Funding and capital support, 1 girls' hostel will be established in every district. To promote astrophysics and astronomy via immersive experiences. 4 telescope infrastructure facilities will be set up or upgraded. The National Large Solar Telescope, the National Large Optical Infrared Telescope, the Himalayan Chandra Telescope, and the Cosmos 2 Planetarium. Tourism. The tourism sector has the potential to play a large role in the employment generation, forex earnings, and expanding the local economy. I propose to set up a National Institute of Hospitality by upgrading the existing National Council for Hotel Management and Catering Technology. It will function as a bridge between academia, industry, and government. I also propose a pilot scheme for upskilling 10,000 guides in 20 iconic tourist sites through a standardized, high-quality, 12-week training course in hybrid mode in collaboration with the Indian Institute of Management. A national destination digital knowledge grid will be established to digitally document all places of significance, cultural, spiritual, and heritage. This initiative will create a new ecosystem of jobs for local researchers, historians, content creators, and technology partners. India has the potential and opportunity to offer world-class trekking and hiking experience. We will develop ecologically sustainable mountain trails in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu Kashmir. Also in Araku Valley in the Eastern Ghats and Podigai Malai in the Western Ghats. Turtle trails along key nesting sites in the coastal areas of Odisha, Karnataka and Kerala. And 3 bird watching trails along the Pulikat Lake in Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. It's on the border. Under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, we established the International Big Cat Alliance in 2024. This year, India is hosting the first ever Global Big Cat Summit, where heads of governments and ministers from 95 range countries will deliberate on collective strategies for conservation. Heritage and culture tourism. I propose to develop 15 archaeological sites, including Lothal, Dolavira, Rakhi Gadi, Adichanallur, Saranath, Hastinapur, and Leh Palace into vibrant experiential cultural destinations. Excavated landscapes will be open to the public through curated walkways. Immersive storytelling skills and technologies will be introduced to help conservation labs, interpretation centers, and guides. The sports sector provides multiple means of employment, skilling, and job opportunities. Taking forward the systematic nurturing of sports talent which is set in motion through the Khelo India program earlier, I propose to launch a Khelo India mission to transform the sports sector over the next decade. The mission will facilitate an integrated talent development pathway supported by training centers which are foundational, intermediate, and elite levels. B, systematic development of coaches and support staff. C, integration of sports science and technology. D, competitions and leagues to promote sports culture and provide platforms. And E, development of sports infrastructure for training and competition. Our third Kartavya aligns with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas towards Vikasit Bharat. This requires targeted efforts for 1. Increasing farmer incomes through productivity enhancement and entrepreneurship, with special attention to small and marginal farmers. B. Empowering Divyangjan through access to livelihood opportunities, training, and high-quality assistive devices. C. Empowering the vulnerable to access mental health and trauma care. D. Focus on the Purvodaya states and the Northeast region to accelerate development and employment opportunities. Fisheries. We will undertake initiatives for integrated development of 500 reservoirs and Amrit Sarovars. 2. Strengthen the fisheries value chain in coastal areas and enable market linkages involving startups and women-led groups together with fish farmer producer organizations. Animal husbandry. To provide quality employment opportunities in rural and peri-urban areas, we will support the animal husbandry sector in entrepreneurship development through a credit-linked subsidy program, B, scaling up and modernization of livestock enterprises, C, enhanced creation of livestock, dairy and poultry, enhanced creation of livestock, dairy and poultry focused integrated value chains, and D, encourage creation of livestock farmer producer organizations. High value agriculture. To diversify farm outputs, increase productivity, enhance farmers' incomes and create new employment opportunities, we will support high value crops such as coconut, sandalwood, cocoa, cashew in the coastal areas, agar trees in northeast, and nuts such as almonds, walnuts and pine nuts in our hilly regions. These, all of them, will be supported. India is the world's largest producer of coconuts. About 30 million people, including nearly 10 million farmers, depend on coconuts for their livelihood. To further enhance competitiveness in coconut production, I propose a coconut promotion scheme to increase production and enhance productivity through various interventions, including replacing and non-productive trees with new saplings or plants or varieties in major coconut growing states. A dedicated program is proposed for Indian cashew and cocoa to make India self-reliant in raw cashew and coconut production and processing, enhance export competitiveness, and transform Indian cashew and Indian cocoa into premium global brands by 2030. Sandalwood. Sandalwood is closely linked to India's social and cultural heritage. Our government will partner with state governments to promote focused cultivation and post-harvest processing to restore the glory of the Indian sandalwood ecosystem, to rejuvenate old, low-yielding orchards and expand high-density cultivation of walnuts, almonds and pine nuts. We will support a dedicated program to enhance farmer incomes and in bringing value addition by engaging youth. Bharat Vistar, that is virtually integrated system to access agricultural resources. I propose to launch Bharat Vistar, a multilingual AI tool that shall integrate the AgriStack portals and the ICAR package on agricultural practices with AI systems. This will enhance farm productivity, enable better decisions for farmers, and reduce risk by providing customized advisory support. She Marts for rural women-led enterprises. Building on the success of Lakpati Didi program, I propose to help women take the next step from credit-linked livelihoods to being owners of enterprises. Self-help entrepreneur, She Marts will be set up as community-owned retail outlets within the cluster-level federations through enhanced and innovative financing instruments. Empowering Divyangjan. Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana. Information technology, AVGC sectors, hospitality and food and beverages sectors often offer task-oriented and process-driven roles which are suitable for Divyangjan. We will ensure dignified livelihood opportunities through industry-relevant and customized training specific to each Divyangjan group. Divyang Sahara Yojana, timely access to high-quality assistive devices for all eligible Divyangjan is a fundamental need. I propose to 1. Support the Artificial Limbs Manufacturing Corporation of India, ALIMCO, to set up and to scale up production of assistive devices, invest in R&D and AI integration, strengthen PM Divyasha Kendras, and support setting up of assistive technology marts as modern retail style centers where Divyangjan and senior citizens can see, try and purchase assistive products. Reaffirming our commitment to mental health and trauma care. There are no national institutes for mental health care in North India. We will therefore set up a NIMHANS 2 and also upgrade national mental health institutes in Ranchi and in Tezpur as regional apex institutions. Emergencies expose families, particularly the poor and vulnerable, to unexpected expenditure. We will strengthen and increase these capacities by 50% in district hospitals by establishing emergency and trauma care centers. Focus on Purvodaya states and northeastern regions. Purvodaya. I propose the development of an integrated East Coast industrial corridor with a well-connected node at Durgapur, creation of 5 tourism destinations in 5 Purvodaya states, and the provision of 4,000 e-buses. Buddhist sites in northeastern region. The northeastern region is a civilizational confluence of Theravada and Mahayana or Vajrayana traditions. I propose to launch a scheme for development of Buddhist circuits in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Assam, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura. The scheme will cover preservation of temples and monasteries, pilgrimage interpretation centers, connectivity and pilgrim amenities. 16th Finance Commission. On 17th November 2025, the 16th Finance Commission submitted its report to the President. As mandated under Article 281 of the Constitution, the government is to lay the report along with the explanatory memorandum on the action taken report on the recommendations of the Commission in Parliament, which, Sir, Honourable Speaker, you have allowed me to do at the commencement of this session. The government has accepted the recommendation of the Commission to retain the vertical share of devolution at 41%. As recommended by the Commission, I have provided 1.4 lakh crores of rupees to the states for the year 2026-2027 as Finance Commission grants. These include rural and urban local body and disaster management grants. Fiscal consolidation. Government has been delivering on our fiscal commitments consistently without compromising on social needs. To strive towards accepted standards of fiscal management in Budget 25-26, I had indicated that the central government would target reaching a debt to GDP ratio of 50 plus or minus 1% by 2030-31. In line with this, the debt to GDP ratio is estimated to be 55.6% of GDP in BE 26-27, compared to 56.1% of GDP in RE 25-26. A declining debt to GDP ratio will gradually free up resources for priority sector lending and expenditure by reducing the outgo on interest payments. One of the main operational instruments for debt targeting is the fiscal deficit. I am happy to inform this august House that I fulfilled my commitment made in 2021-2022 to reduce fiscal deficit below 4.5% of GDP by 25-26. In RE 25-26, the fiscal deficit has been estimated at par with BE of 2025-26 at 4.4% of GDP. In line with the new fiscal prudence path of debt consolidation, the fiscal deficit in BE 26-27 is estimated to be 4.3% of the GDP. The revised estimates of the non-debt receipts are 34 lakh crore rupees, of which the centre's net tax receipts are 26.7 lakh crore. The revised estimate of the total expenditure is 49.6 lakh crore rupees, of which the capital expenditure is about 11 lakh crores. Budget estimates 2026 to 2027. Coming to 26-27, the non-debt receipts and the total expenditure are estimated as 36.5 lakh crore and 53.5 lakh crore respectively. The centre's net tax receipts are estimated at 28.7 lakh crore rupees. To finance the fiscal deficit, the net market borrowings from dated securities are estimated at 11.7 lakh crore rupees. The balance financing is expected to come from small savings and other sources. The gross market borrowings are estimated at 17.2 lakh crore rupees. I'll now move to Part B. Part B, direct taxes. Honorable Speaker, sir, I now present my proposals on direct taxes. New Income Tax Act. In July 2024, I announced a comprehensive review of the Income Tax Act 1961. This was completed in a record time, and the Income Tax Act 2025 will come into effect from 1st April 2026. The simplified income tax rules and forms will be notified shortly, giving adequate time to taxpayers to acquaint themselves with its requirements. The forms have been redesigned such that ordinary citizens can comply without difficulty. Ease of living. I propose that any interest awarded by the Motor Accident Claims Tribunal to a natural person will be exempt from income tax, and any TDS on this account will be done away with. I propose to reduce TCS rate on the sale of overseas tour program package from the current 5% and 20% to 2% without any stipulation of amount. I propose to reduce TCS rate for pursuing education and for medical purposes under the Liberalized Remittance Scheme, popularly known as LRS, from 5% to 2%. Supply of manpower services is proposed to be specifically brought within the ambit of payment to contractors for the purpose of TDS to avoid ambiguity. Thus, TDS on these services will be at the rate of either 1% or 2% only. I propose a scheme for small taxpayers wherein a rule-based automated process will enable obtaining a lower or nil deduction certificate instead of filing an application with the assessing officer. For the ease of taxpayer holding securities in multiple companies, I propose to enable depositories to accept Form 15G or Form 15H from the investor and provide it directly to various relevant companies. I propose to extend time available for revising returns from 31st December to up to 31st March with the payment of a nominal fee. I also propose to stagger the timeline for filing of tax returns. Individuals with ITR 1 and ITR 2 returns will continue to file till 31st July, and non-audit business cases or trusts are proposed to be allowed time till 31st August. TDS on sale of immovable property by a non-resident is proposed to be deducted and deposited through resident buyers and his or her PAN-based challan instead of requiring a TAN, which is a temporary accounting number. To address practical issues of small taxpayers like students, young professionals, tech employees, relocated NRIs, and such others, I propose to introduce a one-time 6-month foreign asset disclosure scheme for these taxpayers to disclose income or assets below a certain size. This scheme would be applicable for two categories of taxpayers, namely A, who did not disclose their overseas income or assets, and B, who disclosed their overseas income and or paid due tax but could not declare the asset acquired. For category A, the limit of undisclosed income or asset is proposed to be up to 1 crore rupees. They need to pay 30% of fair market value of asset or 30% of undisclosed income as tax and 30% as additional income tax in lieu of penalty, and would thereby get immunity from prosecution. For category B, asset value is proposed to be up to 5 crore rupees. Here, immunity from both penalty and prosecution will be available with a payment of fee of 1 lakh rupees. Rationalizing penalty and prosecution. Multiplicity of proceedings are hindrance to the ease of doing business. I propose to integrate assessment and penalty proceedings by way of a common order for both. There will be no interest liability on the taxpayer on the penalty amount for the period of appeal before the first appellate authority, irrespective of the outcome of appeal process. Further, quantum of prepayment is being reduced from 20% to 10% and will continue to be calculated only on core tax demand. As an additional measure for reducing litigation, I propose to allow taxpayers to update their returns even after reassessment proceedings have been initiated, and an additional 10% tax rate over and above the rate applicable for the relevant year. The assessing officer will then use only this updated return in his proceedings. There is already a framework for immunity from penalty and prosecution in the cases of underreporting. I propose to apply this framework for immunity to misreporting too. However, in such a case, the taxpayer will need to pay 100% of the tax amount as an additional income tax over and above the tax and interest due. Penalties for certain technical defaults, such as failure to get accounts audited, non-furnishing of transfer pricing audit report, and default in furnishing statement for financial transactions, are proposed to be converted into fee. I propose to rationalize prosecution framework under Income Tax Act while maintaining a careful balance for deterrence in some serious offence. Non-production of books of account and documents and requirement of TDS payment where payment is made in kind are being decriminalized. Further, minor offences will attract fine only. The remaining prosecutions will be graded commensurate with the quantum of offence. They will entail only simple imprisonment with maximum imprisonment reduced to 2 years and power to courts to convert even those into fines. There is no penalty. There is no penalty presently for non-disclosure of non-immovable foreign assets with aggregate value less than 20 lakh rupees. I propose to also provide them with immunity from prosecution with retrospective effect from 1/10/2024. Cooperatives. Deduction is already allowed to a primary cooperative society engaged in supplying milk, oilseeds, fruits or vegetables raised or grown by its members. I propose to extend this deduction to also include supply of cattle feed and cotton seed produced by its members. I propose to allow inter-cooperative society dividend income as deduction under the new tax regime to the extent it is further distributed to its members. I further propose to allow exemption for a period of 3 years to dividend income received by a notified national cooperative federation on their investments made in companies up to 31/1/2026. This exemption would be allowed only for dividends further distributed to its member cooperatives. Supporting IT sector as India's growth engine. India is a global leader in software development services, IT-enabled services, knowledge process outsourcing services, and contract R&D services relating to software development. These businesses and their segments are quite interconnected with each other. All these services are proposed to be clubbed under a single category of information technology services with a common safe harbor margin of 15.5% applicable to all. The threshold for availing safe harbor for IT services is being enhanced substantially from 300 crore rupees to 2,000 crore rupees. Safe harbor for IT services shall be approved by an automated rule-driven process without any need for tax officer to examine and accept the application. Once applied by an IT services company, the same safe harbor can be continued for a period of 5 years at a stretch at its choice. For IT services companies who want to conclude advanced pricing agreement, APA, I propose to fast-track unilateral APA process for IT services and endeavor to conclude it within a period of 2 years. The period of 2 years can be extended by a further period of 6 months on taxpayers' request. I propose to extend the facility of modified returns available to the entity entering APA to its associated entities also. Attracting global business and investment. Recognizing the need to enable critical infrastructure and boost investment in data centers, I propose to provide tax holiday till 2047 to any foreign company that provides cloud services to customers globally by using data center services from India. It will, however, need to provide services to Indian customers through an Indian reseller entity. I also propose to provide a safe harbor of 15% on cost in case the company providing data center services from India is a related entity. To harness the efficiency of just-in-time logistics for electronic manufacturing, I propose to provide safe harbor to non-residents for component warehousing in a bonded warehouse at a profit margin of 2% of the invoice value. The resultant tax of about 0.7% will be much slower than in competing jurisdictions. To provide fillip to toll manufacturing in India, I propose to provide exemption from income tax for 5 years to to any non-resident who provides capital goods, equipment or tooling to any tool manufacturer in a bonded zone. To encourage vast pool of global talent to work in India for a longer period of time, I propose to provide exemption to global, non-India sourced income of a non-resident expert for a stay period of 5 years under notified schemes. I propose to provide exemption from minimum alternate tax, the MAT, to all non-residents who pay tax on presumptive basis. Tax administration. I propose to constitute a joint committee of Ministry of Corporate Affairs and Central Board of Direct Taxes for incorporating the requirements of income computation and disclosure standards, the ICDS, in the Indian Accounting Standards, Ind AS itself. Separate accounting requirement based on ICDS will be done away with from the tax year 27-28. To support Prime Minister Modi's vision of homegrown accounting and advisory firms to become global leaders, I propose to rationalize the definition of accountant for the purposes of safe harbor rules. Other tax proposals. Change in taxation of buyback was brought in to address the improper use of buyback route by promoters. In the interest of minority shareholders, I propose to tax buyback for all types of shareholders as capital gains. However, to disincentivize misuse of tax arbitrage, promoters will pay an additional buyback tax. This will make effective tax 22% for corporate promoters. For non-corporate promoters, the effective tax will be 30%. TCS rate for sellers of specific goods, namely alcoholic liquor, scrap and minerals, will be rationalized to 2%, and that on tendu leaves will be reduced from 5% to 2%. I propose to raise the STT on futures to 0.05% from the present 0.02%. STT on options premium and exercise of options are both proposed to be raised to 0.15% from the present rate of 0.1% and 0.125% respectively. We reformed the taxation landscape for corporates in 2019 by providing them a simplified regime with lower tax rate so that they could productively focus on business rather than on claim of deductions and exemptions. To encourage companies to shift to the new regime, set off of brought forward MAT credit, minimum alternate tax credit, is proposed to be allowed to companies only in the new regime. Set off using available MAT credit is proposed to be allowed to an extent of 1/4 of the tax liability in the new regime. MAT is proposed to be made final tax, so there will be no further credit accumulation from 1st April 2026. In line with this change, the rate of final tax is being reduced to 14% from the current MAT rate of 15%. The brought forward MAT credit of taxpayers accumulated till 30th March 2026 will continue to be available to them for set off as above. Indirect taxes. I shall now take up proposals related to indirect taxes. My proposals for customs and central excise aim to further simplify the tariff structure, support domestic manufacturing, promote export competitiveness, and correct inversion in duty. To continue weeding out long continuing customs duty exemptions, I propose to remove certain exemptions on items which are being manufactured in India or where the imports are negligible. Similarly, to further simplify the process of ascertaining the rate of duty applicable on a particular item, I propose to incorporate certain effective rates in various customs notifications to the tariff schedule itself. I shall now take up sector-specific proposals. Promotion of exports of marine, leather and textile products. I propose to increase the limit for duty-free imports of specified inputs used for processing seafoods for export from the current 1% to 3% of FOB value of the previous year's export turnover. I also propose to allow duty-free imports of specified inputs, which is currently available for exports of leather or synthetic footwear, to exports of shoe uppers as well. I propose to extend the time period for export of final product from the existing 6 months to 1 year for exporters of leather or textile garments, leather or synthetic footwear and other leather products. Energy transition and security. I propose to extend the basic customs duty exemption given to capital goods used for manufacturing lithium-ion cells for batteries to those used for manufacturing lithium-ion cells for battery energy storage systems also. I propose to exempt basic customs duty on import of sodium antimonate for use in manufacture of solar glass. Nuclear power. I propose to extend the existing basic customs duty exemption on imports of goods required for nuclear power projects till the year 2035 and expand it for all nuclear plants irrespective of their capacity. Critical minerals. It is proposed to provide basic customs duty exemption to the import of capital goods required for the processing of critical minerals in India. Biogas blended CNG. I propose to exclude the entire value of biogas while calculating the central excise duty payable on biogas blended CNG. Civil and defense aviation. I propose to exempt basic customs duty on components and parts required for the manufacture of civilian training and other aircrafts. It is proposed to exempt basic customs duty on raw materials imported for the manufacture of parts of aircraft to be used in maintenance, repair or overall requirements by units in the defense sector. Electronics. To deepen value addition in the consumer electronics sector, I propose to exempt basic customs duty on specified parts used in the manufacture of microwave ovens. Special economic zone. To address the concerns arising about utilization of capacity by manufacturing units in the special economic zones due to global trade disruptions, I propose as a special one-time measure to facilitate sales by eligible manufacturing units in SEZs to the domestic tariff area at concessional rates of duty. The quantity of such sales will be limited to a prescribed proportion of their exports. Necessary regulatory changes will be undertaken to operationalize the measures while ensuring level playing field for the units working in the DTA. Ease of living. To rationalize the customs duty structure for goods imported for personal use, I propose to reduce the tariff rate on all dutiable goods imported for personal use from 20% to 10%. To provide relief to patients, particularly those suffering from cancer, I propose to exempt basic customs duty on 17 drugs or medicines. I propose also to add 7 more rare diseases for the purposes of exempting import duties on personal imports of drugs, medicines, and food for special medical purposes used in their treatment. Customs process. India's role and share in the global trade is poised for a major leap in line with our ambition and journey towards Vikasit Bharat. In this regard, I propose many measures for custom processes to have minimal intervention for smoother and faster movement of goods and greater certainty to the trade. Trust-based systems. I propose to enhance duty deferral period for Tier 2 and Tier 3 authorized economic operators, known as AEOs, from 15 days to 30 days. I propose to provide eligible manufacturer importers the same duty deferral facility. This should encourage them to get themselves accredited as a full-fledged Tier 3 AEO in due course. To provide greater certainty and for better business planning, I propose to extend validity period of advance ruling binding on customs from the present 3 years to 5 years. In the spirit of the whole of government approach, government agencies will be encouraged to leverage AEO accreditation for preferential treatment in clearing their cargo. Regular importers with trusted long-standing supply chains will be recognized in the risk system so that the need for verification of their cargo every time can be minimized. Export cargo using electronic sealing. Export cargo using electronic sealing will be provided through clearance from the factory premises to the ship. For import of goods not needing any compliance, filing of bill of entry by a trusted importer and arrival of goods will automatically notify customs for completing their clearance formalities. This will enable goods to be released immediately on arrival. The customs warehouse framework will be transformed into a warehouse operator-centric system with a self-declarations, electronic tracking, and risk-based audit. These reforms will move away from the current system of officer-dependent approvals and reduce transaction delays and compliance costs. Ease of doing business. Approvals required for cargo clearance from various government agencies will be seamlessly processed through a single and interconnected digital window by the end of the financial year. Processes involved in clearance of food, drugs, plant and animal and wildlife products accounting for about 70% of interdicted cargo will be operationalized on this system by April 2026 itself. For goods not having any compliance requirement, clearance will be done by customs immediately after online registration is completed by the importer, subject to the payment of duty. Customs integrated system will be rolled out in 2 years as a single integrated and scalable platform for all customs processes. Utilization of non-intrusive scanning with advanced imaging and AI technology for risk assessment will be expanded in a phased manner with the objective to scan every container across all the major ports. New export opportunities to support Indian fishermen to fully harness the economic value of marine resources beyond our territorial waters. The following measures will be taken. A. Fish catch by an Indian fishing vessel in exclusive economic zone or on the high seas will be made free of duty. Landing of such fish on foreign port will be treated as export of goods. Safeguards will be put in place to prevent misuse during fish catch, transit or transshipment. To support aspirations of India's small businesses, artisans and startups to access global markets through e-commerce, I am pleased to announce complete removal of the current value cap of 10 lakh rupees per consignment on courier exports. In addition, handling of rejected and returned consignments will be improved with effective use of technology for identifying such consignments. I propose to revise provisions governing baggage clearance during international travel to address genuine concerns of passengers. The revised rules will enhance duty-free allowances in line with the present-day travel realities and provide clarity in temporary carriage of goods brought in or taken out. There are honest taxpayers who are willing to settle disputes by paying all their dues, but they get deterred due to negative connotation associated with penalty. They will now be able to close cases by paying an additional amount in lieu of penalty. Honorable Speaker, sir, with this I commend the budget to this august House. Jai Hind. One and a half hours.
आइटम नंबर 3 माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी।
Item number 2, sir. 3. Sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table of the following statements under Section 3, 1 of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act of 2003. Medium-term fiscal policy cum fiscal policy strategy statement and macroeconomic framework statement.
आइटम नंबर 4 माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी।
Sir, with your permission, I move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2026.
प्रश्न ये कि विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाए। जो सदस्य इस पक्ष में हाँ गए, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना गए, मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में, हाँ वालों के पक्ष अनुमति प्रदान की जाती है। माननीय मंत्री जी अब विधेयक पूरे स्थापित करें।
Sir, I introduce the bill.
माननीय सदस्यगण, आपको सूचित किया जाता है कि माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी के बजट भाषण की कॉपी पब्लिकेशन काउंटर पर ली जाती है। बजट भाषण और बजट से संबंधित दस्तावेज आपके मोबाइल फोन और मेंबर पोर्टल्स पर ही उपलब्ध है। सभा की कार्रवाई कल सोमवार दिनांक 2 फरवरी 2026 को प्राप्त 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
So the government of India waxing eloquent about jargon that you and I can never understand in our lifetime. So I'm not bothered about the union budget. It is just a statement of accounts where, depending on who the finance minister is, you will also get.
And I'm walking with my laptop around, but and I'll keep it here. But the fact is, the question that you asked.
Customs to address.
Here, but the fact is, the question that you asked.
Yeah.
Is the government going to facilitate? Let me sit here. Is the government going to facilitate job creation? Is the government going to give hard policy and give?
I rise to lay on the table a copy each of the following papers, Hindi and English versions, under Article 281 of the Constitution. Report for 2026 to 2031, Volume 1, Main Report of the 16th Finance Commission. 2. Report for 2026-2031, Volume 2, Annexures of the 16th Finance Commission. Number 3, explanatory memorandum as to the action taken on the recommendations contained in the above report.
आइटम नंबर 2 माननीय वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमन जी।
Honorable Speaker, sir, on the sacred occasion of Magh Purnima and the birth anniversary of Guru Ravidas, I present the budget for the year 2026-2027. Since we assumed office 12 years ago, India's economic trajectory has been marked by stability, fiscal discipline, sustained growth, and moderate inflation. This is the result of conscious choices we have made, even in times heightened uncertainty and disruption. Our government, led by Honorable Prime Minister Modi, has decisively and consistently chosen action over ambivalence, reform over rhetoric, and people over populism. We have pursued far-reaching structural reforms, fiscal prudence and monetary stability, whilst maintaining a strong thrust on public investment. Keeping Atmanirbharta as a lodestar, we have built domestic manufacturing capacity, energy security, and reduced critical import dependencies. Simultaneously, we have ensured that citizens benefit from every action of the government, undertaking reforms to support employment generation, agricultural productivity, household purchasing power, and universal services to people. These measures have delivered a high growth rate of around 7% and helped us make substantial strides in poverty reduction and improvement in the lives of our people. Today, we face an external environment in which trade and multilateralism are imperiled and access to resources and supply chains are disrupted. New technologies are transforming production systems while sharply increasing demands on water, energy, and critical minerals. India will continue to take confident steps towards Vikasit Bharat, balancing ambition with inclusion. As a growing economy with expanding trade and capital needs, India must also remain deeply integrated with global markets, exporting more and attracting stable long-term investment. As I begin part A, I want to express my gratitude to the people for standing firmly with us as we forge our way together towards becoming one of the largest economies of the world. Our aim is to transform aspiration into achievement and potential into performance as we ensure that the dividends of growth reach every farmer, the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes, the nomads, the youth, the poor, and the women. In Vikasit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue 2026, several innovative ideas were shared with our Prime Minister, which have inspired many of the proposals, making this a unique Yuva Shakti-driven budget. Our government's sankalp is to focus on our poor, underprivileged, and the disadvantaged. To deliver on this sankalp, and given that this is the first budget prepared in Kartavya Bhavan, we are inspired by three Kartavya. Our first Kartavya is to accelerate and sustain economic growth by enhancing productivity and competitiveness and building resilience to volatile global dynamics. Our second Kartavya is to fulfill aspirations of our people and build their capacity, making them strong partners in India's path to prosperity. Our third Kartavya, aligned with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, is to ensure that every family, community, region, and sector has access to resources, amenities, and opportunities for meaningful participation. This threefold approach requires a supportive ecosystem. The first requirement is to sustain the momentum of structural reforms, continuous, adaptive and forward-looking. Second, a robust and resilient financial sector is central to mobilizing savings, allocating capital efficiently and managing risks. Third, cutting-edge technologies, including AI applications, can serve us as force multipliers for better governance. Reform Express. Our government has undertaken comprehensive reforms towards creating employment, boosting productivity, and accelerating growth. After the Prime Minister's announcement on Independence Day in 2025, over 350 reforms have been rolled out. This includes GST simplification, notification of labor codes, and rationalization of mandatory quality control orders. High-level committees have been formed, and in parallel, the central government is working with the state governments on deregulation and reducing compliance requirements. The Reform Express is well on its way and will maintain its momentum to help us fulfill our kartavya. I now move to specific proposals. Under our first kartavya, to accelerate and sustain economic growth, I propose interventions in 6 areas. 1. Scaling up manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. 2. Rejuvenating legacy industrial sectors. 3. Creating champion MSMEs. 4. Delivering a powerful push for infrastructure.
Industry voices and reactions here, but there's a lot for many industries. So we will be joined by many of those representatives here at the CII dugout. Our guests are going to start arriving very soon. But initially speaking, there's a huge murmur going around as far as the corridors here is concerned, and the focus that the Finance Minister has announced, which is, as you were saying, in tourism, there's education, there's the future sunrise sectors as well. There's of course pharma industry. We're expecting a reaction from that industry as well, and we'll be right back with you as soon as our guests start arriving here. Anand.
Right, so let's swing back to you and come back to you into the dugout as soon as we have experts there. Garg Saab and then Sunil Lalakji.
See, I think great budget in this in the way this has been presented. For the first time, I found the budget focusing on what the budget should be doing rather than sort of announcing the announcements of the government and all.
Right.
So this is one great aspect.
Right.
Second, to my mind, a very nice macroeconomic budgetary balance. The FM has not increased the expenditures very much. It's only about 6%. She has not taken any tax hits kind of thing.
Right.
The fiscal deficit at 4.3% for the next year is good.
Right.
So I think the budget balance is excellent in the circumstances. Third, to my mind, there is very specificity of everything which has been announced this time.
Okay.
So proposals across the
there's some attention to detail, that's and sector-wise.
Exactly, and that is very good. Everything was a very specific proposal, whether it was for the electronics industries or whether it was for services boost kind of thing. So that's, I think, the big, very good things about. 3 bad things, which I think is
they could have done or did not do.
Which to my mind are very big misses.
Yeah.
One is this, again, this privatization and disinvestment has been completely forgotten.
Yeah.
Second, the customs package was expected. There is no customs package. You don't find it there at all.
Correct.
There is again some tinkering which has been done in the past. And lastly, to my mind, the one big problem which India, especially Delhi, has been facing is this climate change and pollution has been completely missed out.
So pollution has not been addressed in the budget, but is it because it's going to be addressed not at a central level but at the local, state and administrative level?
We must recognize that this is a national problem. It's not local problem. Anywhere else in the world, whether it was China after 2010, this has been handled and dealt with at the central level.
But we must not forget, I agree and I buy this point with all respect, but Beijing 2008 has everybody forgotten. Did we see the athletes wear masks and choke?
Correct. So that is,
and then till 2016 Beijing could not solve it. Beijing also took 8 years to get
exactly, it takes time, but you have to start.
Yeah.
You have to start.
On that, the numbers actually say that Delhi in the last decade and a half has not had clean air days as many as it has had in 2025.
No, that's latest is wind effect. How do we deal with the pollutants?
Correct. Now,
Did we do anything to deal with the pollutants?
Okay. You believe strongly it should be part of the budget and there has to be a national focus on it. There is another thought which says this is an administrative challenge that the Delhi government has and the Delhi government has to deal with it along with the respective neighboring state governments. So that's the thought process. There will be no overall central budgetary allocation for it. It's something which everybody has to put some work in it and collectively sit together.
There's the cooperative federalism, and that's what has to come in, and that begins with the budget. I'm sorry.
So ye aap batayenge. I mean AAAP. Sorry.
You're going to ask me, no, because I said basically a budget to increase our effort on growth. Basically it's a budget, therefore I like that portion. But it's focused on employment without actually talking about employment. Now, for instance, tourism, and if you talk about infrastructure, you talk about every other thing is going to generate employment.
Right.
Now, employment is 1.4 billion people the Prime Minister has to look after. Because he stands for elections every year.
Correct.
He stands only for employment. And inflation. Now, ultimately, people vote for inflation or employment.
This year in the next 3 months, 4 months itself, there will be West Bengal, there is Assam, there is Kerala, and there is Puducherry. Puducherry. And towards the end of the year, we will look at again Tamil Nadu. Then we will go to.
So he's not talking about
next
employment
year,
at the moment, but he's all through his her speech was on infrastructure and consumer spending and everything else that generates employment. Now, whether you want to make a political issue out of it or not, because when the Hindi channel of yours in the morning, when the opposition wanted everything, but when it came down, when I asked them about one question which they had to answer, was will they go into one government and one policy? And they couldn't answer this question. And they could not answer this question at all, because everybody wants everything for themselves.
Right. Santosh Mehrotra ji with us. I'm going to check if Mohandas Pai ji is through with us. Mohandas ji, namaste. Can you hear me? Okay, we'll try and go across to him the moment he is through. Mohandas Pai is also joining us.
Point on jobs.
What I feel is that the private sector and we must join hands with the government. Every time the private sector has come in and they've increased through AI or whatever you want to increase productivity, they've sacked people. The private sector has actually dismissed people. So it's a question of them increasing employment and joining and perhaps in reducing their profits.
What is labor intensive, where AI can be an enabler? Now, globally also we are seeing AI getting into the warehouses and huge numbers of jobs being retrenched even by the likes of Amazon, etc. And this will happen. But there will also be perhaps a counter opportunity where opportunity will be created, especially in places like Bharat.
The skill development that is going to take place might take 2 to 3 years. Now, he is standing for elections every year and therefore he has to generate increased employment. Now, when I said reduce profits for the private sector, it does not mean that you halve your profits or quarter of your profit, but if you increase,
frankly sir, how many jobs you create, how many roads you build and how many nalkas and houses you build does not seem to be getting them any electoral yield. What is getting them electoral yield is somebody is putting out a dole, some yojana comes, there is 10,000 rupees in your pocket for three installments comes, before the 4th installment election happens and the next 3 installments come.
But when you create employment, then that's important. Infrastructure is employment creation is going to be important.
I'd just like us to join some of the dots which are there before us in the budget when it comes to jobs, employment generation. One is reviving the legacy of 200 industrial clusters. If that can be put on the fast track, and then the 10,000 crore SME growth fund. This is for sector which has high potential within the SME. And then the women self-help entrepreneurs, the marts, so that they get linked to marketing, to the markets. And of course, the East Coast Development Corridor is also for growth, but again, it will take 2 to 3 years' time. but the focus on biopharma, on pharma, this is a sector which is expected to double. The market is expected to double by 2030, and there's a lot of scope in the contract research and manufacturing of the pharma and biotech. So I think when we join the dots, we see that stimulus has been given to the employment
If that is the
generators.
case, why are the markets down and why is the Congress's first reaction? Jairam Ramesh has said it's a lackluster, non-transparent budget which does not say where have you allocated the monies, where have you put the monies on the big schemes, which are the big schemes where you're focusing attention on.
Inevitably we have to wait for the numbers. Let the Ministry of Finance actually put the numbers up, and then we will, hopefully in an hour's time, we will get a chance to analyze that. For the moment, we are only analyzing the speech. So if I may sort of just return to the jobs theme as well as the manufacturing theme. I mean, my first reaction was good news, return to manufacturing as a theme. I was talking about it before we heard the budget speech, you will recall. And I was also hoping for a new emphasis on MSMEs, and we got both of that. I'll speak about that. So I'm pleased to hear that, there is an attempt to focus on the semiconductor mission as well as on rare earths. Because these are likely to remain vulnerable areas in our international relations, given the geopolitical environment.
Yes, some 40,000 crore allocation on semiconductors has already been announced.
I'm all for it.
Rahul Gandhi says, I will react on the budget in Parliament tomorrow. Jairam Ramesh says, while the documents need to be studied in detail, it is clear after 90 minutes that the budget 26-27 falls woefully short of the hype that was generated about it. It was totally lackluster. The speech was also non-transparent since it gave no idea whatsoever of budgetary allocations.
See, Anand, the point is, no, so let me elaborate on what Mr. Jairam Ramesh is trying to say. What I'm hearing him say essentially is that the fiscal space of the government was limited. She's trying to reduce the fiscal, the deficit.
Right.
She's not mobilized resources from anywhere as far as I can make out. I know Garg Sahab talked about demonetization.
Except just doubling, more than doubling.
But
some top line
20,000 crores.
Correct. I mean, just two markers to defense expenditure, FY27 5.94 lakh crore versus 5.68 lakh crore in FY26.
Defense.
तो कितना बड़ा, कुछ नहीं बड़ा, nothing per se. Divestment target is at 80,000 crore versus 33,837 crore in FY26. इस साल 80,000 crore.
No, 80,000 must be against 75,000. Not
B2B.
B2B.
If you compare B2B. On R&D, she's left research and development out completely for all industry.
So that allocation has already been announced. The RDI allocation announced. Sir, point is 1 lakh crore was announced, but of that not even 200 crore has been tapped.
The spending is not RDI. That's where the problem is.
Budgetary allocation
is nothing.
Allocation
nothing. On R&D is a huge amount which has to be spent.
No, you're absolutely right. A lot has to be spent. But can I just return to the jobs?
I'm just saying the government is saying we are willing to spend, but nobody has asked for that money in RDI. So what do you do?
It's not that simple, by the way. I'll explain it in case you want. First,
No, you go ahead.
No, RDI scheme last year, they put 20,000 crore against the entire science and technology budget of about 5,000 crores a year. In 1 year, 20,000 crore. That, I think numbers will come, but not more than 200 crores would have been spent. Why? Because that scheme is getting rolled out. You are creating fund, you are creating structures, you are inviting proposals. The entire 1 year has been spent on all this preparatory work. Let us see that in the next year, can you move further? By the way, this NRF was first announced in 2021 budget. So 5 years down the line.
So who's moving slowly? The government or the administrative machinery?
The government scientific establishment, both. Both of them.
The government is, no, when you say government, is it because the government in terms of the minister and they are
Ministry,
but the bureaucracy is taking its own sweet time?
Exactly. Scientific bureaucracy is also there.
I would like to make a quick point here. The 5 university townships near the industrial and logistic corridors, this should promote industry, academia, collaborations and can be seen as a correction move.
Correct, but these 5 university townships, ma'am, will not come through in the next 5 years.
When they come.
And which universities are going to come? Which universities are?
Yes,
you're making allocations, you're making a plan, but is this enough? Is it fast enough? Is it happening soon enough?
It is not.
Or is it
We are so
frustratingly
far
slow?
behind. How many
That's the
IIMs
question.
have been created? All the Institute of Management. Now, when I went to Shillong, I said, where do they getting their jobs? Where are their jobs for such people who come out from the IIM?
No. What courses are the IIMs doing and what is their employability in the current market landscape? So is the education and is it structuring and tailoring itself to meet the requirements in the market? Because there are many employers who are saying, I am not finding the right kind of skill. I am not getting. भाई आप वो IIT करके MBA करने वाला या फिर बैंकर बनने वाला दौर चला गया इंजीनियर अब बैंकर्स नहीं बन रहे हैं.
That's what I'm asking you, that you're creating all these structures.
Yes.
You're creating so many institutes, but are they employable or not?
Yes, a lot of the action happens in the states.
Again, for this skill, 2 years back, the finance minister announced 20,000 crore scheme for skill.
Yeah.
Couple of months back, that scheme, and that was exactly to get the private sector skills to be sort of created with the help of the private sector.
Right.
That has only started. That scheme has been approved couple of months back, and now let us see when those 1,000 government
So
ITI.
you're saying ये आज announcement हुआ है, work in process will start by the end of 2027 or early 2028.
This is the problem.
Just quickly going out to the dugout, CI dugout, Shivani has a guest with her. Yes, Shivani.
Thanks a lot for that. Mr. Ashok Sehgal, Chairman of the Policy Panel at CII National MSME Council and MD Frontier Technologies Private Limited is with us. Mr. Sehgal, thanks a lot for your time. So a lot of the focus was meant to be for manufacturing and for MSMEs. Your key takeaway from the budget today?
I think the key takeaway is that the Finance Minister has correctly recognized that MSMEs are the backbone of industry. Large industry has always said that, and the government is recognizing that unless you have a strong supply chain supporting the large industry, overall growth will not take place. So it is very gratifying to see a lot of schemes announced specifically for MSMEs to grow both in overall scale as well as in the quality of the products which they can produce. So one is the scheme they have for equity support, because as growth takes place and both the overall GDP numbers, and we are expecting that the growth of MSMEs is in fact faster than that of the overall GDP growth of the country. The equity support is required to MSMEs to increase the scale of the operations, to modernize them, update them both in quality terms and in productivity terms. So that is a very gratifying thing. Then they also, Finance Minister spoke of the Mitra scheme, in which there will be experts available through educational institutions and others to guide MSMEs in becoming more productive and adopting modern techniques. Another thing is the geographical spread. MSMEs are spread out not only in the large cities, but there's an emphasis, and repeatedly the FM mentioned tier 2 and tier 3 cities. She also mentioned remote areas like the northeast and far east and the eastern states. She also mentioned the Himalayan region. She also mentioned certain specific areas in the south like the Araku Valley, where specific focus is being given, and this is where MSMEs are spread out. And the MSMEs who are not in the metro areas are significant both in terms of turnover, in terms of number, and the number of people they employ. So all this will have a major impact on the economy as a whole.
So there is like, there's a integrated program for textiles, affordable sports good manufacturing, dedicated chemical parks, rare earth, permanent magnets, semiconductor, mission, container manufacturing scheme, electronics components scheme, of course, the biopharma Shakti, high value construction and infrastructure equipment, and of course revival of 200 legacy industrial clusters. So a lot for the industry here across many, many sectors.
Yes, coming back specifically to the focus area we were talking about earlier of MSMEs, you missed out leather, you missed out fisheries. These are two areas which were seriously impacted. And the third is garments. And particularly coming to garments, although it's not mentioned the minister's speech, garments also is an area where the recently announced EU scheme is an opportunity for Indian garment exporters to make up any losses they've had in exports to the US by substituting for Bangladesh to the European market. So these are all steps which will help a lot. The electronics thing is something where there will be a supply chain benefit, because as the electronic sector grows, of course the final product will be made by bigger companies, but part of the supply chain has to be MSMEs for the components, and I think that is a great opportunity because that has a certain quality and systematic improvement required in the supply chain, which would be something which would improve the approach of all MSMEs on how to do business, how to do production, and how to stick to timelines.
Shivani, just hang on. Professor Santosh Mehrotra has a question for Ashish ji. So can you just pass on, relay the question, please? Yes.
Yeah. Ashish ji, with all due respect, I mean, you represent the MSME industry within the CII. The big concern that all MSMEs have, receivables from the big corporates as well as from the government. What are you attempting to get the government?
So receivables from corporate and government. Just
I mean, there's so much the government can do.
Has to relay the question.
There's only so much the government can do in the budget in this regard on receivables.
Right. On receivables. Yeah. Query.
Yeah, Mr. Ashok Sehgal with me, one of our guests, Santosh Mehrotra, economist in the studio, is asking you a question that, you know, there's only so much the government can do in the budget, but when it comes to the receivables from the government that the industry needs, what is it that you needed, what is it that your expectation is? Or how do you, plan to make up for that?
Okay, I think outside of what was announced for the budget, I would like to share that 2 days ago there was a meeting of the Controller and Accountant General's office, which has done a survey of MSME industries, and it was reported by the MSME Ministry Additional Secretary that against a mandated procurement by PSUs of 25% of the requirement from MSMEs, in fact the procurement is closer to 45 to 47%. So there's a very direct help there. Another aspect of today's presentation by the FM was a recognition of the need for timely payment and expanding the TREDS network to cover and make it mandatory for all PSUs regardless of their size, and to link it up with the GEM portal which has been created, and both of these would improve the liquidity of MSMEs to a very large extent.
I hope that suffices. Anand, any more questions?
Well, thanks indeed for that. Viewers, big day today, big day. The markets not reacting very positively. That's because there is no real one big headline. This is sectorally focused budget, but it is a budget for resilience. Viewers, headwinds globally, the government's focus is to insulate the economy but also encourage growth, and therefore the focus has been heavily on the SME sector, which is most exposed to global disruption. And I think some of our panelists might be happy that there are allocations to that effect to make the supply side stronger, especially in a new innovating economy and a global scape, by ensuring that we look inwards to try and farm rare earths and other minerals that will be required to boost productivity and production in a new economy, viewers, in a new global economy. Also, of course, massive capex outgo there, record levels, increased even from last year. So the government is focusing on infra, which has been a gripe across sectors for years altogether. All of this tying in with a few tax tweaks here and there to encourage investors from abroad to put some money in, especially PIOs who are living abroad in increasingly stressed circumstances and perhaps looking backwards towards India to try and fulfill their destinies, their economic and financial destinies. So some giveaways there. So there you can see it. Despite all of that, the FM believes that fiscal deficit numbers will stay range bound, that they won't leap through. We can of course discuss that. Boost, as I said, for labor intensive sectors, because this is very, very important. In a Trump era, you have disruptions, viewers, and therefore you have to insulate your economy from these pulls, tugs and pressures. So let's just open this up. We're also joined by Amitabh Kant. Mr. Kant, your few words first, overview of this budget. What really is the focus? Clearly, in a stressed environment such as this, the finance minister has to ensure first that the country stabilizes. Is this resilience? Is this a budget for resilience? Is it also to release the reform spirit that is required? And if so, how?
So Rahul, first and foremost, the budget provides continuity to the vision of Viksit Bharat during a very complex geopolitical scenario. The geopolitics is very fragmented, and it was, I think, absolutely necessary for the finance minister to pursue this path of fiscal consolidation, which is, to my mind, very important, because otherwise it would have crowded out private sector in the long run. So she's brought down the fiscal deficit from 4.4% to 4.3%. But as they say now that it's debt to GDP ratio is the more critical indicator, she's brought that down from 56.1% to 55.6%. But despite all this, she's pushed for two critical things. One is manufacturing, and the second is focus on infrastructure. She's taken the capex spend to about 12.2 lakh crore, which is in actual, the effective capex of the central government goes up to about almost 4.4% of the GDP, which is the highest ever. So huge thrust to infrastructure. Secondly, I think there's an aim is to really drive manufacturing, for which she spelled out a strategy plan which focuses on pharma, semiconductor, electronic, etc. But one key thing I would like to point out is that today globally 75% of the global investment is taking in AI-related infrastructure, and the smartest move in this entire budget to tax till 2047 on all data centers being established in India, which will have computing power and cloud infrastructure in India. So to my mind, that is a path-breaking move in many ways to drive private sector capex spend from across the world to India. And secondly, there's a
We're having a few issues. Sir, we're having a few issues with your connection.
Yeah, please,
you keep freezing on air. Maybe you can reconnect in just a few seconds when the line stabilizes. We're having a few problems there. But yes, let me try again. Amitabh Kant, you were making a point, and your voice broke up there about AI and the future face of the global economic scenario. So how is that being addressed? And I want to ask you a couple of specific questions, because the four kartavyas that the finance minister has listed is stability, fiscal discipline, moderate inflation and sustained growth. How are these being addressed by her budget?
So, Rahul, first and foremost, I think this budget is a budget of great fiscal discipline. It's a budget of fiscal consolidation, because it really aims to bring down the fiscal, if you look at it, the fiscal deficit is being brought down to 4.3%, the GDP, the debt to GDP ratio is being brought down, and the capex spent is going up to 12.2 lakh crore. This is huge. But overall, I would say it's a budget of great continuity during very complex geopolitical times. And second is that one of the smartest moves in this budget, to my mind, is the focus on infrastructure and manufacturing. To take the budget spend high is good, but more important than that is to have these cities linked up with high-speed corridors, and also to say that the data centers being established in India till 2047 will be totally exempt from tax. That means you're driving computing power, artificial intelligence, cloud infrastructure to India. And if you look at it, the budget lays a lot of emphasis. This, to my mind, is very, very critical. Secondly, the budget also lays a lot of emphasis on sectors which have been impacted by Trumpian tariffs. That is, the focus on textiles, the focus on marine, the focus on leather sector. These are sectors where job creation is critical. And last point I want to make is, in this brief intervention, is that if you look at it, the emphasis on the MSME sector, creating 10,000 crore MSME growth fund, creating MSME champions, and laying a huge emphasis on trade, which will then ensure that there is adequate liquidity for them. There is a credit guarantee scheme for them that is linked to GEM. There is an asset-based lending, and there is a huge emphasis on trade lending. So these to my mind are very, very critical in terms of protecting jobs, in terms of accelerating infrastructure, accelerating manufacturing, and yet maintaining fiscal discipline, which was really critical in a very complex geopolitical scenario.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Amitabh Kant, for that exposition, setting out, viewers, the aims of this budget and how the FM has tried to sort of future-proof against or hedge against global disruptions. I'm also joined by N.K. Singh, former chairman of the 15th Finance Commission and former Revenue Secretary. Peerless Mr. N.K. Singh with us from CII. Mr. N.K. Singh, your first take on this budget. There is a need for India to build with resilience, but also a need to be competitive globally so that we can push our products across geographies. Has that largely happened while also welcoming new money?
So, my first reactions are, if you ask me, it is credible, it is sagacious, it is in consonance with the emerging geopolitical challenges. It augurs well for what the economic survey has now said. It significantly takes up the baseline from 6.5% GDP to a new baseline of around 7%. It is credible, Rahul, because if you look at the fiscal consolidation roadmap, not only has the fiscal deficit target of 4.4 been achieved, but it is designed to go down to 4.3, which is in consonance with taking the central government debt down to 50-51. From the viewpoint of any potential investor or rating agencies, adherence to the roadmap or the well-defined roadmap on fiscal consolidation under these circumstances is very credible and assuring. Second, I think that the new trade agreements, which offers enormous new market and access, enables India to become competitive in terms of its products and in terms of seeking out these new European destinations, which are very credible. We must realize that in the last 2 months, there have been two very important developments. One is that India has successfully signed many credible trade agreements which deeply expand its reach and its diversification. The simplification in terms of the customs duties framework and the emphasis now on permitting import field duty on many items which have been mentioned, and also the rationalization within that framework is really quite consistent with our approach to try and sustain a rate of growth of a firm 7.2%, 6.8 to 7.2%, which was articulated in the economic survey. The budget fully aligns itself with some of the expectations that the economic survey had laid down. And two other important factors. Look at some of the emphasis which has been given on youth and employment. And youth and employment, as you can see, the special efforts which have been articulated in the budget are credible, along with the fact of the services sector in recognizing the high tourist potential areas, in, for instance, illustratively outline some of the Buddhist circuit package, in training skills which are designed to do that. And the emphasis on the health sector, in making India a health destination from the viewpoint of the kind of specialization and facilities we have. So all taken together, this augurs well for India to continue its growth trajectory of 6.8 to
Okay, so we've also got with us Amitabh Kant, but NK Singh, I want to ask you very importantly, while Amitabh Kant is also there with us, I want to ask you this important question. You said credible. Now, one of the requirements that industry had was to ensure that there would be deregulation so that we could become not just a manufacturing powerhouse, but also one attracting investment, because the economic survey suggested that there was a lag between our top line numbers and sentiment internationally. We weren't getting enough investment. Does this budget address that gap, sir?
So I'm glad Amitabh is here. I'm sure that he has also read the economic survey with as much of a fine comb as perhaps I have endeavored to glance through. What does the economic survey basically says? It says three things in my view. First of all, it bumps up India's potential from an average of 6.5 to 7%, and it does so, as it explains, riding on the backs of the multiplier effects of recent economic reforms, which have been quite substantial. Those have been continued